I've been interested in Francesco Corselli's work for a number of years, perhaps the last 2 decades. He fascinates me because he had big success in 2 countries, in Italy and in Spain, and particularly in Spain, where he was dominant at the royal court. I've never directed any of his works before because there's not many times one gets the opportunity. Achille and Sciro is an opera serio with a famous libretto by Metastasio, a very successful libretto. It was, I think, premiered in Vienna with a production of an opera by Caldaro, and also then by Sari in Napoli. The Madrid version was written by our friend Corselli, and is one of the most vibrant librettos of the 18th century. And it's also an opera, not just serious opera as opera seria implies, but also with a large amount of comic elements. I would highlight the virtuosity of the singers. I think this is one of the things that defines 18th century opera at this time. The mid-18th century is defined by the necessity for great singers of the day, and that's why opera remained popular, and it's why this piece springs to life, because of the extreme virtuosity demanded most of the evening. We do practically all of the original score. We make some small cuts, as you do in every single opera, even Mozart's Idomeneo or La Clemenza di Tito. It's normal to make some small cuts. Maybe you're making a compact disc, this is a different thing. But for a live performance, we tighten particularly aspects of the recitativi, which are very long, for not only for today's public, for every public. And also composers at the time changed from performance to performance. We see different things, and we see examples of where they made their cuts as they revived their pieces. Handel is full of this, for example. So we don't make that many cuts. I think we only cut 1 aria in the whole evening. We try and perform in an 18th century style, as we do in every performance. It's my credo in life. We try and give the composer his voice, his or her voice, and we try and do the style that the composer would recognize. And so in that sense, we call it a historical performance. And in this case, we have the Sevilla Baroque Orchestra playing on early instruments, period instruments, which I think is suiting this piece very well. In this opera, we have many high-lying roles. In Madrid, in the premiere of 1744, the role of Achille was sung by a soprano, but she was an exceptional soprano who was exceptional singing in Italian. She was Spanish, and she was referred to as being a superstar. But in Vienna, this piece was done by soprano castrato. And we find in our performance, I say the 21st century equivalent in Franco Fagioli, who is not a countertenor, but a male soprano, I would say. And he has an extraordinary voice, the like of which is rarely heard. And as in all opera productions, we choose the best singers for the role. And in this case, we choose Achille as a male soprano. Teagine is also a soprano role, and in this case, we choose a female soprano. This is a virtuoso opera. Every singer has to be on top of their game. They often have to sing with extremes of tessitura and extremes of tempo and coloratura. So they have a lot to do all evening. So like a lot of 18th century opera, the weight of the evening is falling on them, and their ability to tell a story in these detailed, brilliant recitativi. They have to be delivered with great skill, almost like actors. And I'm pleased to say we have a director who's able to get them to do that, and we support that with our musical side and our continuo team. And they have to deliver their arias with panache. I wanted to do this piece because it's important for us at Teatro Real to show some of the history of Spanish music in the 18th century, not just at the end of the 18th century, but the middle of the 18th century. It was a very rich period, and it was a time when many great singers in the world came to Spain to work for the royal court. We looked at about 7 or 8 different operas from this period, and we came to the conclusion that this is really one of the finest. And I think it's a piece that should be done not just in Madrid or in Spain, but should be done around the world. We want you to come and hear this piece because we believe it's a gem, it's a historical gem, but it's not just historical in a sense of a library performance. It's a vital living piece with a great story, a humorous story, and with great singing. This opera has a relatively small forces, but not smaller than those of Mozart. So that we played these pieces successfully in our house, and it fits well in a size of Teatro Real. The orchestra is like a Mozart orchestra. It has, medium-sized string groups, 8 violins downwards. We have normal double woodwinds, we have trumpets, horns, and we even have 1 or 2 special instruments like the salterio, which is a really exotic piece. This is worth coming to hear this alone. This is like a keyed sitar, and we have brought a specialist in from Germany to play this, because about 2 people in the world can play this instrument. We have an exotic continuo team, chitarrones, harps, lots of harpsichords and organ, and this will bring the recitativi secchi to life. And so otherwise it's very much a Mozartian orchestra. I would play harpsichord myself, as I like to do in 18th century opera whenever the chance permits, and I think this gives me a special connection with the stage and our singers, and also continues the working process we start in the studio and on all our later rehearsals.